I'm here with my good friend Jorge Ruvalcaba. Jorge is a business owner, owns his own landscape company. Jorge, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know, we've been communicating lately and you've been very busy, so I don't want to keep you too long. Again, I'm glad you're here. Just want to, I've known you for about maybe we met a year and a half, maybe
Probably
a
a
year.
year and a half ago. Yeah.
Year and a half ago, and you and I have been gotten close and connected, and we've been talking and so forth since. And I've gotten to know your wife as well, and your story really resonated with me. I hear different versions of your story from different people, those that are having a struggle to get started right in real estate investing, and those that have started but had uh, you know unfortunate situations, right?
Right.
Experience unfortunate situation. They got burnt, they got cheated, they experienced collapse of the market in the past, or they maybe heard horror stories from other people, right?
Right.
So with that said, that's why I really wanted you to come on, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here. So tell us a little bit about Jorge. Tell us a little bit about the landscaping business and what really inspired you getting into landscaping.
First of all, thank you for having me here. And first time doing something like this, so we'll give it a go. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a landscape contractor. I've been in the business. I've been licensed since 1999, so 26 years ago. I've but I've done landscaping, gardening, all that stuff since pretty much I was 6, 7 years old. I would go work with my dad on the weekends and stuff like that. It was so fortunate that at a young age, I was 14 going on 15, I lost my dad, also at a really young age at 44 years old. So after that, I kind of started getting too much trouble and stuff. And I said, you know what? I told my mom I'm done with school. I'm gonna just take on my dad's gardening route full time. And pretty much everything that I made was for her, right? All the money I brought in was for her to help in the house. It was bad times. So anyway, so I kind of got pushed into it a bit, I guess you could say, into the landscape part of it. But it's also what I knew how to do because I had done it for so long with my dad. I was doing gardening and I'm thinking there's got to be more to it than this. I said I want to become a landscape contractor. I want to get big contracts. I want to deal with engineers, architects. That was my thinking back then. City work, stuff like that. I said I just got to get bigger contracts and it's not going to happen just as a gardener. It isn't. I was maybe about 20, I want to say I was about 23, 24 when I started studying for the contractor's exam. I got my first go. I had turned everything in. They denied me. I said, why'd you deny me? They just thought I was too young. When I did get my license, I was one of the youngest, or I might have been the youngest at the time to actually get my contractor's license. Yeah. That's why they couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? And I was like, look, I get it, but I've given you everything you asked for, all the letters of recommendation, the experience, all that stuff. So anyway, third time's a charm. That's when the lady said, send me all this stuff again and I'll get you a test date. So I got a test date. I passed. I passed the test. It was the best time of my life. It was a big accomplishment for me. And so then it went from there. Slowly but surely I started growing the business and I like what I do. I really do. I do like seeing like a yard that looks sad and tore up and just transforming it. It brings pleasure, and it brings going to your business and stuff. It brings value to and to homes and stuff like that. I think curb appeal is the first thing. It's like a first impression, right? So I that's one part I like about it. It's just how you make something ugly into something beautiful, I guess, is easiest
Sure.
terms. Yeah. So
I
that's
mean, similar. It's a big contributor to a flip or like, remodel or a rehab of a property. It's the first impression.
right,
First thing
right.
you see when you step up to the property, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy because it's kind of I think it's psychological. A lot of people, if you see a rundown landscape and it looks raggedy, they're already thinking, oh, there must be more problems to this
Yeah,
place, right?
yeah.
And you see a really nice landscape, nice manicured or taken care of. It doesn't have to be all lavish, as long as it's nice and clean. And then your mentality changes. You're thinking, okay, if their landscape's taken care of, then, they must have taken care of the inside of the house or whatever. It's just all psychological. But in all honesty, it's true too, though. If you take the time to take care and really have that nice landscape, the inside of the house is also well t maintained.
Mhm.
At least that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, the way I see it is this: like you remodel a house, right? You do an amazing job. You've seen some of the work that we've done.
Yeah,
We put a lot of time, effort, good quality finishes, and then you don't stage it, right?
right.
It doesn't show the same way.
Yeah,
You stage it, pops, right? Now let's take a step back. You don't remodel a house. You clean it up, you vacuum, whatever, you mop the floor, you clean it up, and you
yeah.
stage it. It's still like is seen differently, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
I've seen a lot
Exactly.
of properties that need to be remodeled, a lot of deferred maintenance, but they're
Right.
staged, and it definitely helps out a lot. So yeah, I understand. I
Yeah,
totally get it. And one thing I wanted to say, you mentioned you really like your job. I think you're very passionate about what you do.
right,
From knowing you the short amount of time that I know you, one, you're a father, you're a husband, and and the conversations we've had, I know I can tell, you're passionate about your family, your kids, your wife, your job, everything you do, and it also reflects in your work, right? Because
right,
we work together. You
right.
you know you came to the event. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Uh-huh.
You connected with me at the event, and that's what this event is about, right? Empowering entrepreneurs like yourself to connect together and see how we can be a resource to one another, right?
Right.
When I met you, I had, a few projects going on. I said, hey, I have one that I need your help with. Can you come check it out? The pink house, the Monrovia one.
Yeah.
And like I said, it shows in your workmanship, in your promises, commitment, your pricing, and all that overall.
Right.
And as far as that specific example, it really helped the property sell
Right.
very fast. Even the other one you did on Alice in LA. So you passionate, man. You're truly passionate, and that's what drives you, right?
Right. Right.
That's in my opinion. So I want to take a step back to what you were saying. So are you the how many siblings in your
I have it's four of us all together. So I have three
Okay.
siblings.
Are
I'm
you
the
the oldest?
youngest of all
Youngest.
four. Yeah, I'm the
Youngest.
youngest. Yeah, yeah. I have a brother. My brother's the oldest, and then I
Okay.
have two sisters, and then myself. So yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. I mean, if I was to guess, I was gonna say you're the oldest, you're taking over your father's business and you're going into that's awesome, man. That's commendable. Everything else is history, right? You've moved on. We've talked about how you've taken on a lot of government contracts, a lot of city
right.
contracts. Yeah, I'm sure you have mixed feelings about that.
Yes,
What
sir.
else? What else do you want to share? Like, what's the journey that you're on? Like, what do you feel the highs and the lows of being a business owner?
Exactly like you said, there's highs and lows. There's lows where, there's it's hard, work is hard to come by sometimes, you really gotta hustle. One of the hardest things is actually finding good help, which could be a big downfall for a lot of people, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? As far as highs, I mean, sometimes even I mean, I've had, I think we spoke about it and I won't get into too much detail, but I've had really bad lows, and we were fortunate enough with the support of my whole family, obviously my wife, Fabi, which and my whole family and stuff. I was able to rise above it, and we're still standing. With all those lows, I mean, I don't think I would ever change being self-employed, being my own boss, because even though we don't have a typical 9 to 5, or even my employees, like they're done with work and that's it. They're done. We don't have that luxury. I don't think we're ever done, right? We don't have 8-hour jobs, 8-hour shifts. But with that, you also pretty much make your own schedule, so you get to have a little bit more freedom to spend it with family, with going to kids events, going to your kids sports events, coaching like I know you do, and I coached baseball, you coach soccer, stuff like that. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that's really good about it, that to me, especially family comes first. So to me, like just being able to make time to be with my family, that just trumps everything. Even honestly, big contracts or whatever it be, it was just to me, it was always yeah, I want to make a really good living, a really nice, comfortable living, but I want to be able to spend time with my kids. And I've been able to do it, thank God, because, I mean, I've hustled my butt off to do it, to make my business what it is and be able to give me those perks from time to time.
Mhm.
So those will probably be my like my highs and lows on the business. Yeah.
It's always a lot of highs and lows, that's for sure.
Yeah, you know that.
Then
You're
again,
running two businesses, so you know that pretty much.
yeah,
Two, three
and
businesses,
that's
you know?
honestly like part of, what makes or breaks a business, right? It's like the lows, being able to get back up and keep going.
Yeah,
In your case, like you said, it doesn't seem like there's nobody can get you out of what you do because you love what you do, despite all the lows that you did experience, like you said, and it made you stronger, right?
right. Yeah.
So, and you were able to reevaluate your business, what you can do differently, and so forth.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Exactly.
So, with that, I want to segue to your real estate investing experience in the past. Before you and I met,
Right.
you shared with me a little bit about it. Share with us a little bit about that, whatever you want to share, what happened
Sure.
in the past, and how you've recouped or not recouped from.
Right. Yeah, well, back in 2000, it was around 2007, I would say. We did do some investing out in Vegas, my wife and I was real passionate about, this was one thing that I've always known, even since I was young. I said for some reason I just knew I wanted to own property and stuff like that. I'm just passionate about just like landscaping. I'm passionate about like real estate, like property, like owning, like stuff like that, investing, right? So
Mhm.
we decided to invest in Vegas. We had three properties out in Vegas. Everything was going pretty good. And then 2008 came, obviously, and boom, everything went so bad. So also that, some of our renters had to move out. The renters I was trying to get, like after that, like the rents weren't matching anymore our payment pretty much.
Mhm.
So for a while I was able to carry it. I said, well, we can carry it for a little while. We'll see how long this goes. And I was upside down on everything, but I was able to be paying, a little bit negative on everything, but I'm paying just to see if the market ever leveled out. But as you know, that took a while. So it just, took a toll, and I told my wife we can't do this no more. We're losing money. I was okay for a little while, but no, it's not going to be feasible. We can't keep doing this. It was getting hard to find good renters. So Vegas went real hard, went down real hard, right? So it was really bad. It was worse than here, I think. And so we just ended up deciding, we can't handle this no more with that. And like I said, one of the lows in the business where I had told you, I had these big lawsuits and all that stuff. So everything kind of came together, right?
Mhm.
So we said, look, what is our priority going to be? Is it the properties out there, our investments and all that? Or I have to deal with these lawsuits, and I dealt with that, took care of it. But now it's like, now we got to save our home. So it's either we save the investments or we save our home. And so obviously we opted to save home, and we had to let those properties go. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we had to go, bankrupt. We lost the properties, the whole ordeal. But, here we are. We're still standing. We got through it. And like exactly like you said, it's at the time it seems like your world is crumbling down, and it is at the time, you know what I mean? But it's how you get up, how you get back to things, that I think that's where you really learn why it happened or the things that happened, and then you make some adjustments. And like I told you, since when we met, that my wife and I said, now we know that we have to do more due diligence, not just jump in and just, I used to be gung ho, dude. Boom, boom, let's go. Now I gotta hold myself, and she holds me back, and she's like, wait a minute, we gotta look deeper into this because we're not getting into that problem again. So yeah, we kind of learned, you learn. It's a learning experience. If you make it out of those big problems, then it truly is a learning experience, and it truly does make you stronger, wiser, I guess, whatever. And so if it happens again, like without doing your due diligence, you can't control the market. But I'm saying, as far as like we would go in it gun ho, like not really do our due diligence, then that's shame on us, right? If it happens the second time. But luckily, we met some guy named Alex Nahle, and he's he won't let us do that. It's been awesome knowing you, man, this year and a half, and like you said, we'll get into how we met and stuff. But yeah, it's been cool, having you as a friend because I consider you a friend. So yeah, so now we're like, yeah, let's go, let's do this investing again. I think I'm over all that PTSD and all that, so we're ready to roll.
But it took a while. It was
It
hard,
took a
man.
while.
It
Yeah.
was hard.
It
It's
was
not
scary, especially for my wife more than me.
sure, sure,
Because like I said, I'm a little bit more gung-ho, so I'm
sure.
like, all right, I'm ready to go, let's go. And she's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
it
that's good.
was
You
hard.
balance out each other, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I'm too extreme, and so she kind of calls me down. So brings me down to earth. Yeah.
This is awesome. So if you're enjoying this episode, if you're watching on YouTube, please click the like, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend or a family member. If you're listening to this on either Amazon Music or Spotify, in the comment section below, we do have the link to YouTube. Check it out as well if you'd like to watch it. So again, please subscribe to the channel. Really helps us out. So Jorge, so after all this, despite of what you went through, you're still considering investing in real estate.
Yes, yeah, I'm still passionate about it. Yeah, even after all we went, because exactly like you said, it's kind of a learning experience, and I just feel like it's just the best way, especially me being self-employed, Alex, and then not really. My wife has a really good job, but she's a W-2, so I'm kind of secure under her blanket, with she provides the medical, the dental, like all that stuff through her job. She has her retirement, all that stuff. Self-employed, we have to make our own retirement. You know what I mean? So,
Exactly.
pretty much for me, that's one tiny drive for me, which is to build landscape, to build, fortune just to have a good retirement. But the other one is really my kids.
Mhm.
As we've spoken in the past, our goal really is, I mean, besides I do, like you said, I want to do like, I still into doing, want to do flips, stuff like that. I do want to own some stuff, rentals, but our ultimate goal is hopefully have at least one property for each one of our kids. We have three kids, so I think that's what keeps the drive more than anything. You know what I mean? Because times are so tough. Everything's so damn expensive. Excuse me, so expensive. It's like, you know, that's the only way I could think we could help our kids out. At least leave them a property. Then it's up to them if they want to live there, they want to rent it out, or they want to cash out and buy something bigger, better. I don't know. That's on them.
Exactly.
Well, I feel like we did our part at that point. Yeah.
But also, I mean, what I know about you is not just you leave it for them. The way I know you do it is you get them involved, you educate them on what you're doing and so forth. Like
Right.
you mentioned about your business, so that's very important because this way, they're more responsible, right? They're more involved. They know it's not like, oh, we're gonna get a house. No, they're gonna be participating in making it better and so forth and so on. So
Right. Right.
it's definitely cool to have a balance, and that's one thing you and I have in common is family. Family comes first.
Right.
Obviously we love what we do, but it has to be balanced out.
Right. Right.
So with that said, let's jump into how we met. I know it's a story that I don't forget.
Right.
Really, sticks in my memory. I remember, some of the people that were there at the time and so forth and the setting. So share with us a little bit about how we met, a little bit before, days before that event.
Right. Yeah, so when we had, my wife and I had talked, and we decided, yeah, let's do this. So now I'm thinking, okay, how do I do this? In LA it's so expensive. Is it even feasible to, invest here or flip or do anything, you know what I mean? And I started, like, hearing podcasts and reading books and searching and out of state and this and that, and I was like, okay, but then now I gotta try to know people out of state, make like a team out of state, and and I went through that before in Vegas, so I was like, you know what? I need like a sign, or something, from God, honestly, like, and I'm searching, I'm going through Instagram, and then your Instagram pops up,
Hmm.
and I see you, and then you're doing the investing here in LA and all this, and I'm like, dude, this is an actual dude, because there's a lot of stuff that they show out there that supposedly they invest this and that, but it's all baloney, right? But I don't know, it was just something about it that just caught my attention, and it called me, and I told my wife, I think this is the guy that I need to talk to. And honestly, you were just like God sent. It was like a sign he sent me. And I believe I contacted you through it, didn't I?
You
Through Insta?
contacted me before coming to the event.
Yes, I
I
did.
don't recall. It could have been through social media. I know you weren't following me. I wasn't following you. I think you were just
No,
stalking me. That's all.
yeah.
But then, so yeah, it's interesting how that happened. I mean, it's the right place at the right time.
I think so. And I'm not a guy that takes too, like, it takes me a little bit to kind of, confine somebody or actually trust, and because of all the stuff I've been through, right? But for some reason it was just like, to me it was something that was meant to be, honestly. And I showed up to the event in Studio City. I believe that was the first event I went to, right?
Mhm.
I was nervous as hell, dude. I'm not used to being like, I'm a social guy and I talk, and now that you know me, I could go on and on, right? But like to start socializing and something that was kind of out of my norm, because I'm socializing with clients all the time, and employees and contractors and all that stuff, about the stuff that I know. Investing, I felt like I was new to it again because, like I said, I had done some investing. I did out of state investing without even knowing really I was doing out of state investing back in the day. I was just
Okay.
like, I'm always in Vegas. I have family in Vegas, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. I can do this over here. I know Vegas. I did show up to the event, and I spoke a little bit about myself, how I met you, how and I think I did tell everybody it was like a sign, I had to meet him. This is the guy. This was gonna be my mentor. It just felt right, dude. That's what it was. Like you have a gut feeling. As I believe as humans, we just have that gut feeling, whether something good or something bad. And so, I said, you know what, I'm going with it. And we met year and a half later. Here we are. We're friends. We stay in touch. And I've done some projects for you and some properties for you, stuff like that. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten my own investment yet, but that'll change pretty soon. We'll talk about
We're
that.
working on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, dude, it just, like I said, it just seemed like a sign. It felt right. And here we are. I met you, met your wife, wonderful lady. And so, it all worked out, man. And I've been going to your events. I try to go to all your events, at least at the Pasadena events. I try
Mhm.
to go to on a monthly basis all the time, unless I can't make it for some reason. But other than that, I try to be there, yeah.
And I
And
appreciate that.
we've
Yeah.
had a lot of insight in your events too. So
Yeah.
you brought a lot of speakers and a lot of stuff that you're like awe moments, like, oh damn, I didn't know this. So it's
So would
pretty
you say
cool.
like the people you met at the events or the content that you've heard at the events, whether speaker or others that are attending, would you say that really impacted your mindset, your viewpoint of real estate investing and kind of encouraged you to even push further?
Yeah, I honestly, you know how you lead by example, and that's what you're doing. You know what I mean? And that's the first thing I look at, because you have your real estate, business, and you have your real estate investment and stuff like that. So there's no denying that it could be done in LA. So you're kind of my first inspiration, where, dude, he's doing it. So yeah, and you've been mentoring me, and so it's like, yeah, it could be done. And then, we go to your events, and then there's been a lot of interesting topics in there that kind of open your mind, and you're like, oh, crap, yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought of this, or I never imagined this, or and so it does open your mind to more of a broader spectrum, and you've had speakers where you can really go either way with investing, there's
Hmm.
been a lot of variety of stuff, like syndications, and then and just regular, investing, and then multifamily and all these talks, and even like trying to get like those business lines of credit and stuff like that, to help out with your investment, So it's been a lot of insight, a lot of interesting stuff that has happened, and the people I've met there have been awesome, and I mean, it's been people from all walks of life, dude. That's
Hmm.
crazy, It's cool, and I've met, people that are in syndications. I've met people that are investing in multifamily. I've met people that just invest in their neighborhood, like where they live, and they're trying to invest there, and so it's cool. All the different stories is really cool, and it does kind of keep the drive going,
Yeah.
Uh,
It's really about the people you meet along the way, good or
Yeah,
good, bad, or indifferent. It's just, that's what makes the experience.
right,
And I'm glad to hear that, you've enjoyed it, that feedback is valuable, right? That's the goal, is to make sure, it's information or people that we're going to be able to provide value for one another, right? That's really what
right,
it's all about.
right,
So again, going back to what you said, like you took action, you didn't let it push you down and not get back up. You did make excuses, but you overcame them, right? You figured out
right,
what you need to do to take action. You're not, yeah, you put yourself out of your element, right? You're not the type of
right,
guy that's comfortable to go out network easily, and you got there. You
right,
didn't get there easily. You push yourself. That's important, right?
right.
So kudos to you. And this
Thank
is,
you.
again, this is, the main reason I really wanted to bring you on is your story resonated with me. I felt, I'm hoping that, I'm pretty sure that, it's going to resonate with someone out there that's listening or watching right now.
Right.
Hopefully it inspires them to get up, take action, and then everything else is magical after that. You get the property, you stabilize it. If it's a rental property, or you're going to deal with issues, obviously, right?
Yeah,
Or if
yeah,
it's a fix and flip, you get it, you sell it, you make money, you move on. So great
right.
stuff. I'm excited for you, right? I'm excited for you, and I know with your work with your kids growing up and graduation and all that stuff. I know that's been kind of holding you back a little bit, but we're gonna find something for you that's gonna be the right thing. But
Yeah.
I want to end it with this. I want you to, with this conversation that we had, with your past experience, with where you're at now, what advice would you give, 20-year-old Jorge? Like if someone back then wants to get started, let's talk about like real estate investing. What would you do
Right.
differently? The mistakes, learn from someone else, or make the mistake yourself. What would you feel? What advice would you give?
Honestly, I say what my wife and I always said, like do our due diligence way better. You know what I mean? Really, really look into not only the property you're trying to invest in, not, looking into trying to put together a good team, especially if it's out of state, like we were trying to do in Vegas, right? You got to rely on all these people. So, you got to make sure. And then after that, also, we made a couple mistakes with some renters that, boy, there were mistakes. So, you know, but we were kind of in the crunch where, oh, but I need the money right now. I need the monthly. And so that was a big no-no. If you go in it like that, like where I just need the money, it's gonna get you in trouble. It's
Yeah,
not gonna go anywhere good. You know what I mean? And we went through that. So I mean, I think that's my biggest thing is just do your due diligence as best as you can. Gather as much information as you can, and don't hold yourself back. Though, go for it. Take the leap. Do it because the our biggest enemy and our biggest that holds us back is ourselves. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And I mean, I could attest to it because I had PTSD for, so many years, 20, almost 20 years, dude, by the time I'm coming around to it again, now 50, I'd say that's my biggest thing. Just don't beat yourself. Just, go for it. And not everything's not going to be perfect, but things have a way of working out, you know, and when they work out, it's really cool, you know.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, you know. So that would be it.
That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Jorge. Again, always cool talking to you. Looking
Same here.
forward for us to getting together again soon.
Yes.
And just let's go out there, get your next investment, and
Yeah.
make turn things around for you, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. You have an awesome day,
All
and
right,
thanks
you
again
too,
for coming
Alex.
out. And then see you guys on the next episode. Bye
All
bye.
right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for joining us on the BRRRR Investor Podcast. If you found today's episode helpful, please hit like and subscribe to our channel for more real estate insights. We love hearing from you, so please leave your thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to cover in the comments section below. Be sure to check out our website, thebrrinvestor.com, and follow us on social media at The BRRRR Investor. Keep learning and investing, and we'll see you in the next episode. I'm your host, Alex Nahle. Stay invested.